Good morning, collective. The sun is just peeking up over here. We got to work a little early today, so I thought I'd pull some cards and get some messages of clarity. Galaxy was so nice enough to wake me up an hour early today. Isn't that nice of him? All right, thank you to my high vibrating ancestors, spirit guides, divines, and being source of light energy. What do the... I'm getting all kinds of... What do the threads of karma want us to know today? What do the threads of karma want us to know? Nope. Ah. Hold on. I can't get it. Okay. Okay, now I gotta turn the light on. I can't see. Embrace both light and dark. Ooh, embrace both light and dark. It went differently in my mind here. Okay. True balance comes from embracing both your light and shadow. Both are necessary for growth. Sorry, I couldn't see. Both are necessary for growth. I think we pulled this over the weekend or last week on another deck as well about embracing our light side and our dark side. Oftentimes people are afraid to really step into their shadow self, and it's not all negative and nasty and people have misconceptions of dark, right? And it's kind of redundant to say this, but a lot of times we don't realize that we are the light until we are in the darkness for some time, and then we realize that we find this light within ourselves to help us navigate the tunnel. When people say there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I've always believed, well, the light may be within the tunnel, but the actually light is within you. You are that light at the end of the tunnel, right? And within the tunnel. So what Spirit is saying is that, how are you able to balance the light and dark of your life? How are you able to recognize that the darkness within you, the shadows within you that need to be brought to the surface and healed? How can you use that of the darkness to shine brighter? It's a balancing. It's not all love and light, and it's not all dark, right? There's also people who are so comfortable with being in the darkness. I was one of them for so long, that meeting my shadow self, having negative thoughts about myself, being jealous, envious, having disdain for other people, not realizing it was a sign of what I need to heal in myself, right? Always being defensive. Those were parts of my shadow, right? And because I lived in the shadow for so long, and because I was scapegoated my entire life, it was comfortable to be in the shadow all the time. Once I realized that those shadow aspects of me, once healed, actually would fuel the lightness within me. Is that making sense? And so it's looking at the shadow parts of ourselves that we tend to shy away from, or that we're so comfortable in, we don't even realize that they're shadow parts of us. Sometimes you have been in the shadows so long, or lived a certain life so long. It doesn't have to be treacherous, but you've lived in shadow parts of your life for so long that it's comfortable. And so some people don't even recognize that there is a different life to live, that there is hope, that there is joy in life, that you can have happiness throughout your whole day and have happiness in your life. It takes some work. So it's looking at how to balance this light and darkness within you, not being afraid of the darkness, as well as not being too comfortable when you're in the shadows. For me, it was easy to be in the shadows. It was, once I started doing the work, it was more challenging. But just living in general in my shadow side was easy because it was comfortable to me. That's all I ever really knew. And once I started to awaken, I realized I can use these parts of my shadow self. Once I heal them as power and strength, I can transmute the past pain, the past regrets, the past, all those things, feeling abandoned, jealous, hateful. I should say hateful because I was never really hateful towards anybody. But all of those things, I can use that once I heal to fuel the light within me. And that's what Spirit is asking you to do today. Are you too comfortable in the shadows? Are you too comfortable in your shadow self that you have this false belief or false narrative that you can never live a different life? Well, I'm so-and-so years old. I've always lived this way, so that's the way I've always been. You know, that's just how I am. I hate that excuse. It bothers me so much. People say, well, that's just the way I am. I just speak the truth. They don't like it the way I am. You're just nasty. People can speak truth without harming others. That's the shadow piece of it, right? Learning. Okay, that's personal, so we're going to separate that, Spirit. Okay. What is it that creates fear when you look at your shadow self? When you look at certain behaviors or characteristics about your personality or your character or whatever, that you became that, you have these aspects because of trauma that occurred in your life. So it was like you learned skills, you learned behaviors, you learned how to move certain areas in your life because you had to, because of the circumstances. And I keep going back to homelessness, but I love using these examples because it's so true. When you have been without a home for so many years or a majority of your life, you learn the culture of being homeless. This could be the culture of addiction or the culture of toxicity in your family or the culture of trauma where everybody in the family just keeps quiet, right? When you have lived that life for so long and you work towards doing something different, it becomes very uncomfortable because you've never experienced the other side of it. There's a transition period. You know, we always talk about just giving people homes doesn't solve homelessness because there's a belief and a culture and you've always done things a certain way while you were homeless or while you were in addiction. It benefited you while you were in your addiction, while you were in that toxic marriage, while you were in these toxic or traumatic relationships. You had to learn survival skills, right? It's possible that these survival skills no longer serve you. It doesn't mean that they're not tapped in your backpack somewhere just in case some shit pops off and it's not in you anymore. It's learning the transition from light to dark. Not that dark is bad. It's learning to use that energy of your shadow, right? And understanding that there's a transition period. When you start to do something different, and I said this in my reading the other day about taking the floaties off your arms and learning to swim and all that. When you make these transitions, it is uncomfortable to our spirit because we've lived so much in denial, anger, resentment, jealousy, hatred, projections, right? And we learn those behaviors due to the traumatic experiences in our life or the traumatic environments that we had to live in for so many years, right? And so we learn these survival skills. We learn these behaviors and they served us a great purpose. So how can we turn that into something more powerful? How can we turn something like that where it's a more higher vibration, right? Dealing with our own traumas automatically raises our vibration and raises our frequency. When we stop blaming others and when we start taking accountability for ourselves and taking responsibility for the choices we made, regardless of the circumstances, and stop blaming other people, it changes the dynamics in our life. It changes everything. So Spirit is wanting you to look at how are you able to balance the light and dark. There's a duality. Some people don't believe in duality. And, you know, as I grow and heal and evolve, my perceptions may change on things. And I'm open to that, right? So for today, here and now, I do believe that there's a duality of things. I do believe not verses, but light and dark. As above, so below. As within, so without, right? But there's one can't exist without the other. If you're in the darkness and there's one pin of light, you are no longer in the darkness. Versus when you're in the light and there's one pin of darkness, you're still in the light. I don't know why that needed to be said, but take what resonates. So that is the message today. I hope you're healthy and happy and full of joy. I truly, truly do. May you love and be loved. Heal, don't harm. And as I say sometimes, not just harm yourself, but not to harm others. Heal so you don't continue the cycle of hurting and harming other people. Have an amazing Tuesday.